Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So happy to be back with my co host, Ramin Modiri, for Money Talk. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis. You're listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And we're broadcasting live right now on E360 TV, also streaming live on our Facebook page, Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars. And I have one with me today, my superstar, and also on our YouTube channel. So right now, when you search Laurie Davis show host, our YouTube comes up. And I have a house guest right now, and she's in her suite watching us on the big screen TV. So, because we, of course, have that app on the television. So I said, no, you can watch the show on the big screen if you like. So she's over there watching the show as we speak. Welcome back, Ramin. We missed you. Thank you for being here. You've been away for a month, so you did have some substitutes, but we didn't talk about money. That's not our area of expertise. So, how was your trip? Over to you. Bittersweet, perhaps, but maybe just share with our viewers a little bit about what you've been up to in the last month.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be back. It was bittersweet as always when um, you go on a trip. The beginning is really good. You meet the family, you visit them, but saying goodbyes are tough. But also, it was kind of adventurous. I had a little difficulty leaving the country, so it was delayed, and it's a blessing to be back. It's good to have to see the family back home, but I'm glad to be here. This is becoming part of my family, so I'm glad to be back on this show. I missed everyone. I unfortunately I didn't have access to YouTube to watch the shows and the ET 360 TV. So it's good to be back to it's kind of a normal life. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
So I'm
yes.
glad. Yeah.
And I should mention to our viewers, because not everybody knows this, but I'm broadcasting to you from Alberta, Canada, which borders on the great state of Montana if our American viewers need to have a landline there. And Ramin lives in Southern California. So we just between the two of us, this is an international show.
Yes.
Right. So a while ago, we decided to do a show just on finances because I don't know that everybody is aware. But many years ago, when we put our workshops together, we get our clients to do a balance wheel. And the two areas that people struggle with the most are health and wealth. And then I meet you, and you're all about what? Health and wealth, being an athlete and being involved in finance. So, what are we going to talk about today? Let's just to bring everybody up to speed because you've been away for a bit. Some of the things that we've discussed already. You did a show for us. We did two or three really fun things. What were they? I know, but let's have you share.
All right. Yes, we did shows on basically, I emphasize a lot about psychology and our emotional well beings and the decisions that we make is in finances is very much related to our self belief and also our belief system and our environment. So we did few shows on, we call it behavior finance, some of the taboos and some of the things that again it's ingrained in us. We also done some fun things such as some of our favorite investment or financial movies like Wall Street movies that I recommended, and also we talked about why athletes and celebrities make the wrong decisions. After earning so much money, they still fail. They go bankrupt, yet they're very successful at what they do. What makes them not to be successful when it comes to finances? And again, it goes back to their belief systems and their environment and the surroundings. And that's the subject I thought we'll talk today, combining few things. Basically, we talked about the movies, and in the movies like Wall Street and Trading Places, there are some acronyms. There are some careers in finance it that the audience might hear it, but they might not really deeply understand it.
Uh-huh.
So we'll go over that and basically also about we talked about like again celebrities. What happens when, for instance, especially when they come to a big money, they basically blow it because a cousin comes and says all of a sudden he becomes a financial advisor. So we'll discuss
Right.
that. So
Okay, because that brought up something. The one thing that I remembered from your presentation on, how people lose their money, you can make gobs of money and still have nothing at the end of the day, was divorce. You told me
yes,
the number one thief, if you will, of anybody's bank account would be divorce and then taxes. I remember that.
yes.
So that led me to think about something that I used to share with my female friends. I'd say, you know what, girls, just be careful because you're one relationship away from being a bag lady downtown homeless, wheeling around a grocery cart. And that rang true for me. And I'd forgotten about that the day of our show. So I'm sharing it today. But I used to say that to my friends. Listen, you're one relationship away from being that. So be careful. And I have a funny story about hiring the wrong person to advise me. So back to you. Today, we're going to support our viewers by sharing some definitions and some characteristics of, what makes for a good person to be helping us with our money. So back to you. You're
Excellent.
the guy with all the acronyms behind your name. I hope that our viewers can see that. Over to you.
Uh, yeah, so basically, I thought actually even combining these two, two things, basically talking about, again, as a consumer, what we should be aware of. And the second thing is it's interesting, on the flight from Dubai to Los Angeles, it's a 16 and a half hour flight, and it was packed. And I was in the last row. So a young man sitting, I was on the aisle seat. There was a young man sitting in the window seat, and basically, believe it or not, he was going to attend University of Alberta, and he was going
Oh,
via LA.
wow.
He was from Pakistan, a very bright young man, and he wanted to go to. He was thinking about investment banking, and and was looking at getting his CFA charter holder, and again my connections and all that. So we had this wonderful conversation, and he still we got connected. And so I thought we combine all of this not only from a consumer's point of view, but also uh, our youth who want to attend universities. They looking at maybe even graduating. They want to graduate, maybe deciding to get their MBA,
Mhm.
or they want to get into the finance field. So basically, that was the goal. So maybe you can combine both, so they have an understanding of different careers in finance. So it's not just being an investment banker or a portfolio manager. There's a different arrays of things. So let me start from the consumer point of view. One of the, this is my 40th year almost. Well, it's a 39 years almost
40,
over. Yeah,
40th year. What are you talking about?
30. It's almost 40 years I've been, involved with investment management and portfolio management and other things. And that's one of the misconception is uh, when advisors come into client's house, everybody considers themselves financial advisor. Now it's almost like somebody coming present themselves as a doctor, which maybe they read a book, or maybe they just got one certification. That doesn't make them to become a neurosurgeon, for instance. So one of the things that we have to be aware of, you want to differentiate that. You want to see what is the source of the advice is coming. One of the most reliable or most trusted sources of advice usually comes from our CPAs, which is our certified public accountants. Accountants are trustworthy because they know everything about you, in a sense, because they do your taxes. But unfortunately, they're not adverse, or they're not aware of all the financial needs of a client. Their focus is on taxations or maybe in auditing, and basically, but the people trust that. They pay them. They don't feel like the accountants have anything to sell them. Basically, we go to the accountants. They don't come to us. But that's just only one element of financial planning. Financial planning, we talk about cash flow analysis, investments, we talk about insurance and risk management, estate planning, so retirement planning. There's a different arrays. So what happens is people get their insurance license and they're good at maybe the risk management side. Unfortunately, sometimes they introduce themselves as financial advisor. Well, you really have to have a background in the big picture array of things. So basically, one of the best ways, if you're looking at the general financial planning, is to find a certified financial planner. If plan this person, his goal is to look at all your things, and there are different designations for that. And designations don't mean by themselves anything. What it shows, though, they have uh, put the commitments to take courses, to go to universities or the education side, and they at least have put the effort to do that. And there's also the ethical issue, so they have to abide every year. They have to take courses, they have to abide by ethical issues, so they are under the microscope. So that's what it it makes a difference. But by itself doesn't mean that everyone who has a designation or is a financial planner is like they do everything ethically. But generally, you have a better odds. Now, when you're talking about financial planners, there are different types. Some financial planners are just fee only, so they are there just for you. So you've paid them the fees. So really, they are there to work for you. You either pay
Right.
them hourly, or you can have retainer
Right.
fee, or they charge maybe money on their managements. They charge you, but their goal is they are a fee only, and that's what I was for 30 plus years. It was a percentage of the money on the managements, or a charge hourly fee. So this way, the whole purpose was on the client. You also have advisors that they work for companies, and they make commissions by selling the products. And that's also, there's nothing wrong with that, because they do have good products. They come to you, but it has to be disclosed that they do not charge you, but they get paid based on the
Like a
suggestions that
like
they
a commission, you mean? Like a
commissions.
commission?
Correct. So maybe um, they might be a captive person working for a specific company. Could be Prudential, Metropolitan, New York Life,
Mhm.
or could be the general agent that they work with
Right.
many companies, but they get paid from those companies. And then we have the hybrid. We have financial planners that they do both. And again, that has to be disclosed. And as I mentioned, there are designations for that. Like a CFP is one of the oldest. It's a college for financial planning from Colorado, and it's a certified financial planner. But there's also like American College, which offers designations like a chartered financial consultant, which is CHFC. There's CLU, which is Chartered Life Underwriter. So any type is important to know that, again, they've done some work. Then you have some people who work for, let's say, again, insurance companies, but they also do securities or mutual funds, for instance. If they do mutual funds, they're called registered representatives. That means they've gotten Series 6, for instance. They can talk about um, variable annuities, for instance, with you. So that's called registered representative. So they can do insurance, or they can also do they can do like funds for you. Then you have registered investment advisor, and the registered
Holy.
investment advisor is someone who actually registered with the state. Sometimes, if they manage a large amount of money, they are registered with the SEC, Security Exchange
Yeah.
Commission, and FINRA, and that's the financial leg of, again, it's a government agency. It's self-regulating for the investment advisors, and basically, an investment advisors can generally what they do, they are the one who manage your investments. And what they do generally, again, they take a percentage of the money under management. So if
Hmm.
somebody is registered investment advisor, they don't, that's not a designation. It's just they have taken like one test, a
Oh,
couple of tests, and they are just registered with the
would
government.
it, would this be the same as the reference you made earlier? Like your cousin decides that you're making a lot of money and they should become your finance.
Right.
I fired my lawyer, my banker who had a securities license, and my accountant. In Canada,
Okay.
they're called a chartered accountant, all in one afternoon. And trust me, they were not looking after me the way I needed to be looked after. So we do have one of the things I'd like for us to talk about is challenging the designations or challenging, you can have a designation that doesn't make you a person of integrity, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Um, because that just triggered that for me when you said about the designations. Generally, we think because somebody has a designation, we can trust that.
No, absolutely. I think that's a very valid point. And, um, in any business, especially when it comes to finances. Now, remember, finances, the problem with finances are that they're intangible. I mean, you don't know the person you're talking to. It's not like you're buying a car, which you can smell it, you can see it. It's based on trust. And there are two
Oh,
things. It's the credibility, and that's what some of these designations might bring because they've had the, went to the school, but also the history and basically how long they've been doing it. But the trust is the most important thing, and that's where we talked about cousins of the situation, but talking about where are they coming from. The intent is for your well-being as a client, or is it for their well-being? And that becomes a huge differentiation. So again, in any business, especially in finance and investing, is the credibility, it's the history. Designations could help a little bit because you've put the effort, but also what you've done with your clients, but also the trust. And the trust comes based on the experiences that you have to really earn doing the right thing. And that takes time, like anything else. So
mhm.
again, credibility and trust are the most important thing in the success of any business, in my opinion. And going back to, again, I've worked with athletes and some celebrities, and some of the athletes I've worked with, the first thing they do, they get this big contract. I had in like late 1980s, I had this young man in from high school, graduate from high school, immediately got drafted to NBA, and cousin came in and he had a $10 million contract, which was a lot of money then. This was an 18-year-old young man. And yet the cousin was older and says, "Oh, I know what to do with this." And,
Oh my
immediately
God.
gone to, I mean, $10 million was gone before even he hadn't even seen it.
Oh
So,
my, yeah. No
so
kidding.
unfortunately, these are the dangers. So you got to do your due diligence. Referrals are very important. You want to talk to people who have already dealt with that person. So it have to be careful. Unfortunately, we think it's a family or a close friend, but we wouldn't let them do our. If you have a heart attack, they will not do heart transplant for us. The same thing in finances, right? The problem we have right now is the vast amount of information we are able to access because of, again, whether it's the YouTube or social media. When it comes to investing, everybody has access to it, but unfortunately we've talked about it's vast as an ocean, but in one
Mhm.
inch deep, so there's no depth. And because of that, you can't really swim in there. So everybody knows a lot but little, in a sense.
Mhm.
So um, but that's what you really have to do due diligence, and again,
Yeah.
to see what is their interest when they talk to you. Um, when it comes to other things, there are a lot of other designations, but these are the main ones. And then
Mhm.
the other thing comes into picture. I'm just gonna switch this to, let's say, if you have young students going to university or they're graduating. There's always a thought. I've been involved with university for the past 15 years, and that's one of the major things. And most of them are the finance students, and they were looking at, do I get my MBA, Master's in Business Administration? What is your suggestion? Or should I get specific designations? Whether do I want to get my CFP, which is Certified Financial Planner, or do I get like a CFA, which is a Chartered Financial Analyst, or do I want to go become a CPA or get anything related to the investments? which one is better, and it all depends on what is your goal. So when we talk about MBA, you could have MBA in finance, that's a major one, but you could also have MBA in marketing, which is very important. I advise any young person who's going to college, they better take some marketing courses, because life is, when we think about selling, it's such a had a negative meaning in our lives, but it's not. Whether you're a politician, whether you're a president, whether you're a spouse, a parent, a child, we are always selling, you know, for our benefit or for a benefit. So marketing is a huge has a huge role in any career. And some of the best doctors, they don't succeed because they're not very good at public relations. For instance, they're very good at what they do, but if nobody knows about you, there's no reason.
Well, exactly, which is what we're working on, right? With our show and our workshops and our information. People can't buy something if they don't know about it or know that it even exists.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, that's, again, the good news is about social media. It has allowed you, to
Mhm.
different, but unfortunately, it has had the other side, like anyone can do anything, can say anything. So
Mhm.
it has kind of
Like
lost.
you could find your financial planner on social media and you don't know anything about them, but they put the letters behind their name whether they earned them or not.
Well, that could be, and it's like it's important. But I would say again, like an MBA, marketing is very important, but also
Mhm.
it could be in management, in economics. So, but the two big ones are the finance and marketing. So MBA is important, but it is not really the only way to go. I mean, as I mentioned, they can go
Mhm.
if they want to be, for instance, investment banker. And I give you some ideas about different schools. So, believe it or not, the number one school for the MBA students to be recruited in the investment world, and especially when we talk about investment world, we're talking about, let's say, a lot of people who go to investment banking. And again, if you have watched like Wall Street or Wall Street 2, it is the investment banker is the one who brings the capital, makes the things happen. You think about mergers, you can think about initial public offerings. They have a big job and they do make pretty good money. And, someone who's been around 5 to 8 years, they can make without the bonuses 280, $300,000. So it is a very lucrative business, but it's long hours. It's a doggy dog world out there.
Yeah.
So for investment banking, the number one is like Goldman Sachs. I mean, Goldman Sachs is one of the top, um, investment banking companies out there, and they go to University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania is the number
Oh,
one
wow.
undergrad school, and then for the MBAs also, they're the school that a lot of these firms go. The number two school is, believe it or not, is NYU. I mean, Stern's business school, and that one, like JP Morgan, is a big recruiter. And it goes on. We got the Cornell University, University of Michigan, for instance, and then we have like Harvard, we have Columbia, we have University of Chicago, which is wonderful in economic side of things. We have Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, University of Notre Dame. These are the top schools, which they get a lot of attention from the investment companies that they want to get their feet wet. So, for instance, the city group, they like to go University of Michigan, like Fidelity and Fidelity Investments. They love Boston. They go to Boston University. There's a lot of connections. So
So maybe this brings up the question that when we're looking or seeking for that professional to support us, it would be a good idea to say, where did you get your education? And if it's not in one of those top schools, you don't really want to deal with them.
well,
Just saying. Just
I
saying.
know, but it's a very so it's a good idea, but then we're eliminating a lot of people because
That's right. Because we
yeah.
only want
So
the best, right?
yeah, the best. I mean, these are the mostly they go to the again mostly in investment banking or portfolio management or financial analysts. They do. As far as, for instance, I know like I worked a lot with like USC, University of Southern California, for instance. And nowadays, believe it or not, a lot of these schools, and Goldman Sachs has a good relationship with them, and a lot of these schools, I mean, a lot of these investment companies, they look at like the CFA charter. They want you, and when I was on the board, for 11, 12 years I was with them, they ask the client, I mean, the students start their first exam while they are at school. So it gives them the heads up. So a lot of the largest bond company in the world, as far as a fixed income goes, is a PIMCO, which is in Newport Beach in Orange County. And they want anyone they hire, they want them to enroll within the first 2 years, and they pay for it, and they want them to get their CFA charter holder, as quickly as possible. So those are the things. Again, if you want to be, let's say, if they want to go become a financial analyst, and what does a financial analyst do? They basically look at analyzing the companies and corporations. They look at their as far as the balance sheets and their income, and they analyze that. So, and they make, good income between, a good financial analyst can make about $140,000. So that's always in demand, and that's its important role to play. So when you watch like Bloomberg or CNBC, they bring these analysts. They say, "Well, we're putting a buy rating. We think we should go buy Tesla or Apple." Well, they have to do a lot of analysis, and we call them fundamental side of things, to make that recommendation. So that's as a financial analyst. A lot of people, on the other hand, they like the excitement of investing. They love to go and really either manage money or get involved with some type of investment side of things, which could be a hedge fund manager. And a hedge fund manager also makes, a good hedge fund managers can, because of the bonuses they make, they can make a lot of money. But the portfolio manager comes in and manages, either on institutional side, they can manage a portfolio of investments. And it all depends on the goal of that portfolio. For instance, when we think about portfolio, it's not just about stocks. It could be a fixed income. It could be real estate. It can be a portfolio manager, real estate, or it could be commodities. It could be currencies. So, and that's where the hedge funds have a lot more flexibility than a specific fund manager, for instance, and they make good money. Then you have a junior analyst, for instance, and basically these are the ideas. As a graduating student, you want to look at, where is your passion? Some people are very analytical, and they like to be behind the scene. And if you're that type of person, you're very much into detail, then usually they go to role of an analyst. They are very, as I mentioned, very analytical, and they like to look at, and even sometimes they build systems based on these
Right.
analysis. And basically they make recommendations within their system. So they're not very comfortable being upfront. So people who want to be on the upfront, they're usually on the sell side of things, or they become like financial advisors or investment advisors. Even investment bankers are in the face. That's why I talk about marketing. There's a lot of, I mean, it's almost like lawyers and attorneys, and they are in a selling business. So you have to determine your personalities, and that's where your expertise comes, Dr. Laurie, is understanding where is their strengths, their belief system, how much they value themselves, what kind of effects they've had in their childhood, their environment, and that helps them to find out, what, we talk about introvert and then extrovert and in between, and these are all labels, but they also help. They help you to kind of look at the careers that you want to be involved with. So it is. I've said it as a trader. So as you know, I've been trading for 33, 34 years, and basically it's a very lonely career, because you're just looking at the mirror all the time, all the mud and all the things that's happened in your past, they come out when you lose money. It's there's nobody to blame. It's just you can say, oh, the markets are rigged or that, but it is all about me. And it's a very difficult place to be, and that's what a lot of traders fail, because they sabotage themselves. Number one, they have a negative view of themselves. But when the ones that they make it really big. But it is a lonely place, so you got to be really strong. You got to be able to make decisions immediately. When I'm trading, that's another thing. Some people want to be traders. The reason is 97% of them really don't make any money. 90% of them, they're out within the first year. They lose money, lose big, some of them, because they mix the gambling with a business. They think,
Right.
it's like a 50-50. Oh, I think this stock is going to go up, or this option is going to do well. Well, life doesn't work that way. And this is
Hmm.
a business. So I'm going back again to what you do is helping us to understand who we are. And I think in anyone, any students or anyone who's like wants to be independent in analyzing investments or do their own portfolios, you got to really have a hard look at yourself, who you really are. That self-awareness is the most important thing. I mean, we talk about, there's an old saying, your enemies, you if you can fight 10,000 um, men or enemies, but you're your own worst or biggest ally or enemy. If you can master that one, you can master anything. And
Right. I'd
that's
like
what
to.
the problem is. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, no, that's okay. Thanks for bringing that up because I'd like to make a couple of comments around that. I'm one of those people that have had it all, lost it all, had it all back. Each time I came back, it was bigger and better. But at the same time, I had to stop and go, okay, why was that happening? It was like a pattern. And that's when I realized that it was all about me. And I've had lots of great opportunities. Um, but we all know in the world that I work in, when we have lost our sense of worthiness, deserving, I mean, you and I have had these talks on the show and after the hours about um, people who make it big and then lose it and come back, and maybe they don't come back. But at the end of the day, when we've lost our sense of self worth or awareness, then the natural next step for us is to go outside and look for it. So we go, some people choose education because they think they're going to find it there. Some people choose fame. Some people choose fame and fortune. Some people choose alcohol. Some people choose sex. We're going to try and find it somewhere, and we spend most of our lives doing that. And so that's why you and I are a great team, because you have the mechanical financial side, 40 years. I have the same in the work that I've done. And so when Ramin and I started talking about doing business together, it was like, okay, these two elements are essential if we're to have health and wealth, which in your equation equals happiness.
Hmm.
And the other day, someone said, we were talking in one of our workshops. I think the topic was, there are millions inside of me. They're not outside of me, they're in here. And one of the comments was, it's not, you know how people will say money's the root of all evil? I said, no, it's the lack of money that is the root of all evil, right? Or the love of money. Money's a tool used to build things. And so, anyway, those are just some thoughts that came up for me as you addressed that side of what is important. Back to you.
Yes. No,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
that.
No.
Hmm.
Oh, of course. Yeah, so I'm going back again, we're talking about the students who want to pursue their passion. And I've shared my story. Just because you have a passion on a subject, that does not mean that you will be successful at that. And that goes to your personality. And I go back to again, as you know, I went to pre-med. I was going to become a neurosurgeon. I went to all that and it, I couldn't, I was working so many hours. It's like, it was not what I wanted. And my strength, again, it was in numbers. It was in computation, probability. And I thought, oh my God, if I can do this day and night, I will be so successful. So I became an actuary, and actuary was really top job, and I was making real money, and I hated it. I'm not the type of person to sit behind the computer. And the company that I started, I was 22 years of age, and the company who offered me a job, they actually had, this is 1980s,
Wow.
early 1980s. They actually had a robot called Scotty, and he would move around and will bring your mail. Ask, you would put the things in this. It was
Oh,
not,
wow.
yeah, it
I
was.
need that. I need one of those.
So, what it was, I was not even allowed to move from my desk to go do
Oh,
something. That was an excuse. So you're stuck. And then, of course, with actuary, you have to first pass the 5 exams. And I was on my third. And I found out that's not the passion I have. I love the numbers, but I'm not the type of person to sit behind the computer. And at that time, I was coaching high school soccer, and I loved it. I was getting paid, not a lot of money, but I would have done it for free. And we had a great team. I mean, these kids, some of them actually became professional players from that high school. And then I found out I need to be out with people. Just because I love the numbers, that doesn't mean I have to sit behind the computer or the laptop or whatever and just punch numbers. I need to be out there. And that's, again, that self analysis. You have to be really truthful with yourself. You have to be authentic to know really what gets you going and gets your juices going, as they say. And for me, was out there, and that's how I got into investment management and finances, because it allowed me to use the numbers, statistics, probabilities, and also be out there, have clients. I love soccer, so all of a sudden everything came together, working with soccer players, and it was a dream come true. But we have to go through these things to find it, and especially when we are younger. It's We have to go to these trials. And it's good to get advice. A lot of people give us advice, but as my daughter says, Dad, you gotta let me to fall down and get up on my own, to
mhm.
feel the wounds on my knee, to know that, listen, it is painful, so I won't do that again. When you say it, it doesn't hit as hard. So that's what happens in the, with ourselves. We got to be very much looking at the mirror all the time,
Mhm,
and seeing who
mhm,
we are and accepting it. So, and it's
mhm.
the same thing going back to advices, as far as when you meet someone. You're absolutely right. They don't have to have designations, but also you want to make sure they are truthful as who they are. They,
Right.
they okay. th- I've done everything you can imagine, from the products and other things and advices, and I've been involved with, from state planning to tax planning, insurances. Not as in, there's a lot of successful, for instance, insurance agents, and they have a job to do. They come, it's a risk management, it's honorable things to see a family is protected. It's very important, but they have to present it that way as well. I am representing this company. I cannot be a investment advisors. If I took like 1 hour of a YouTube course on securities, I have to tell them, okay, but these are some of my experiences. If you want to do
Oh, yeah.
investments, if you
Mhm.
want to do taxes, well, I don't represent myself as tax attorney or tax advisor. I do have a lot of experience in that, but well, you go to a specialist. So we cannot put all the hats and represent, because the circumstances are dictating, because we think, well, we might lose the sale. Well, I'd rather lose the sale this minute than being inauthentic and a year or 10 years later to show that I did not do the right thing.
Mhm.
So it's better to do this. So again, it's about the clients, or the consumers have to be aware of that. And again, everything that I did, I never did marketing, even though we talk about marketing, but everything was referral.
Hmm.
Referrals are important, especially not because somebody looks good or because dresses well or
No.
drives a wonderful car, has a beautiful office, um, you know, that has the most advanced computer system, has the best secretary. No, it's about that person and what they have done to from their heart. And you emphasize a lot that. I think, especially when it comes to finances, the heart plays a big role, in my opinion. It's the sincerity because you're
Well,
trusting people. So
yeah, because money is a very emotionally charged subject.
yes.
So, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who has since passed away, he did a movie in 2007 called The Shift.
Mm,
And on The Shift was this very affluent young couple. They had a huge, big mansion, they had several cars in the yard, but no relationship in the movie. It has a happy ending, but
mm,
Dr. Dyer always said if all of your value is tied up in what you have materially, and what you have materially happens to go away, what does that do to what we're left with if everything's all tied up in that? So what I've done with my this stage of my life is have a balance,
yes.
created a balance. I know what it's like to live in a 10,000 square foot house. I don't want to be doing anything in a 10,000 square foot house now because life changes, circumstances change, and it's about finding that balance. And health and wealth, which we're working on, health and wealth. I think we should put a plug in for our upcoming workshops that we created. We created 100 workshops with Ramin's technical financial skills. He donated 50 workshops, and then I donated 50 workshops on the soft side of things to make the two come together and be magic. So we're just about to launch that before the end of September, and we called it 100 Shades of Prosperity, because prosperity is not just about money, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
The money is terrific. We don't mind that. Um, and I said earlier before the show, I said, Jermaine, do you realize the two topics that people don't want to talk about are money and sex? And they're the two things that make the world go round. But those are the two taboo topics. Nobody wants to talk about money for whatever reason because they don't have a good relationship with it to start with, or um, and sex is it was all about shame and not being, at least in my generation, not we weren't allowed to talk about money, and we certainly weren't allowed to talk about sex. So I think this is really important. I don't think, I know this is really important work that we're doing, because this is not just for the person who would like to accumulate some wealth, but it's also for people who have wealth and want to do the best with it. And the best with it is to help others and build things and make the world a better place, in my opinion. So over to you. I don't know what you think about that. Well, yeah, I do know. I'm lying. Sorry, viewers, I'm lying. I do know. Because if we weren't on the same page, we wouldn't be here right now. So over to you for a little advice around that balance that we're talking about and working to help people achieve.
No, absolutely. And it is um, important, like you mentioned, about the balance. And we go back to that health. And when we talk about health, again, it's not just our physical. It's important that emotional, and now you bring like the sexual health, if you're talking about mental health. And I always emphasize the spiritual health because I think for me, the spiritual health is our GPS. It could have everything else, but if our direction is the wrong way, that means nothing. So we want to have that spiritual guidance as well, whatever belief system, but as long as it is a true spiritual spirit. And of course, money, like you mentioned, it is important. And we've talked about the studies done, from Stanford University to many other universities in the UK, that money actually brings happiness because it, like you said, the lack of money, which is creates the tensions. But money is good as long as it's used, like you said, it's as a tool. It is a means to get to our goals or our what we need to do. So once we balance that, and I think the work that we are doing, and I'm like, again, so excited in the sense that it is things that I was never told. I was never guided. Nobody told me when I was younger. If we can start it with actually our younger generations, the youth, to give them the tools, and it is for everyone, obviously, any generation, but especially our youth, which they already have their own challenges. But if we can make this available, imagine what a generational difference will be for you know hundreds and hundred years to come. And our goal is to change, like we want to change one life at a time, but imagine when they accumulate and what they can do. It is tremendous. And it has, I was in the Middle East, and I was it was amazing sharing our story. And how common is that? They were like all excited over there. They said, we love this idea, and it will be so wonderful to do that. And I work projects in Africa, for instance, and we are all human beings. We have similar needs, we have similar goals. Every parent wants their child to be better than them. They want them to succeed. Every family member wants, most of the time, and there's always there's exceptions, but we all want our each other's happiness. And that's the problem is our again, environment takes us, because of the lack of, like we just said, the self-worth, the self-belief, but also lack of guidance. We just got so many things. And I go back to that social media. Our youth is lost. They think they are, and they're smart. I tell
Mhm.
my students, all my students, majority of them are smarter than me. If you did an IQ test, probably, but they are very intelligent. But that's only one factor. The problem is the right guidance.
Mhm.
And because sometimes being too intelligent or too smart can backfire.
Oh,
And
big time.
that's
Yes.
where the lack is, that we want to make sure we bring that heart and the goal, the mission, combining that. So no, this is a life-changing mission, and it's health and wealth, but it's really this total vision of changing generations to come. So
Yes, I was privileged last week to have had a time to speak about how does self-love or self-worth impact criticism and feedback. It was pretty interesting. I had to come up with something, but it wasn't hard. But because when I started my self-worth quest, when I realized this was the bottom line for everything, 32 years ago, I couldn't find a paper that had ever been written about it. I couldn't find a book. Nobody had ever written a book about it. Nobody. And as a young educator, we didn't even know what that meant, self-esteem or self-worth or self-awareness, self-love. That was not even a part of our vocabulary. So we had to go to the drawing board and create all that. But what we talked about on that summit was IQ, intelligence quotient, and EQ, emotional quotient. And there has been so much work done on that. I was unaware until I attended the summit and I heard other speakers talk about that we must. I was the one who said in my presentation, our intelligence quotient must be balanced with our emotional quotient. And most of us have the IQ and we don't have the EQ. And I know that from two failed marriages and me saying to myself, how did a smart woman like me get into a situation like this? Well, it had nothing to do with my IQ, but it had everything to do with my lack of EQ. I wasn't emotionally mature, emotionally stable. Um, and that just confirmed when I was there last week. Honestly, Ramin, that just even confirmed even more for me what it is that we're doing. And I went, wow, yes. And what we do is we support people on the EQ, and you're going to support us on the IQ because you're going to make us smarter when it comes to our money, which leads to your company, even smart investing. I mean, like, hello, here we are. We have about 5 minutes left. So I just want to thank our viewers that are watching live today. And we've had some really good information again today. And Ramin and I meet every Tuesday at this time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, to share money talking about money and our work in the world now to support people to become healthier and wealthier and showing people how money can be such a beautiful thing in so many people's lives. And for some people, $500 a month would change their life, and 1,000 or 1,500 or 1 million. It doesn't matter about the amount, but it's amazing how in some cases it wouldn't take very much. So over to you for closing remarks and any closing thoughts you'd like to leave our viewers with today.
Yes, I'm just gonna piggyback on your last statement that you made, and um, talking about intelligence and emotional, and there's just seven types of, obviously, there's seven types of intelligences. From we talking about creativity and arts and physical, and people who are very good at reading other people, interdependence, and uh, there's also knowing themselves. And the problem we have, and that's what it comes back to what we are doing is, and I've tried to work with our education system in the United States, and a few other countries have tried, and there's been this resistance, is that emphasis on, you just mentioned about IQ, on math and writing, and which is very important. I agree with that. But that's what, if you look at the parents of the barometer of the success of their children is based on grades. And those grades are what? Okay, if you're not doing well in math, you're a failure. If you're not doing good in English or whatever language, in literature, science. So we put a lot of emphasis on quantitative side of things. And nobody really, as I mentioned, there's resistance. Nobody puts on the life lessons of the things. Some kids are so good in interaction with other kids. Do we reward that? Oh no, is this well, he or she is a social butterfly.
You're
As a
having fun.
or having fun, or look at basically when it comes to organizational things, or athletics. Yes, athletics is more of on the selfish side because it brings financial rewards for, let's say, the schools, but it's not really, don't look at them as, it is an intelligence. Or art, when you talk about art or so. So there is this, again, the differentiation of these things, and we are here to say, everything has to be in balance. We all are valuable. God has created the most wonderful creation, and each one of us has value. We just have to find it. Now, unfortunately, the world runs, or fortunately, well, money plays a role, and that's uh, not the primary thing, but it helps. So we want to work on that. But that wealth is just not the monetary side. There's a lot of other things come with it, but definitely that tool helps to give us the freedom, to give us that, again, emotional maturity to help others. And it starts with our youth, and that's what we're gonna do. But also, there are just so many other generations who could use help. And last thing is, I think you had mentioned, like in Canada, women over 50, financially, they're the most disadvantaged group of
Yeah.
people. Over
Our
50.
our
That's why
largest poverty group. Yeah.
they need, I mean, there's never too late. I mean, we will talk about, it's never too late to make the difference and change. So
That's right.
there's always time. So
Yeah. Our
anyway,
largest poverty group in Canada is women over 50 because their husbands have died, or maybe there was a divorce, or they spent their lives bringing up their families and they don't have any skills and they're not educated. There's lots of reasons for it, but it was pretty shocking when I realized that. And so, yes. Well, our time is up. I want to thank you, Ramin, once again for all the information. I said I thought I knew a lot about money until I met you, and what I know I could put in a thimble. And I just really appreciate our friendship and our partnership. And it was great having you visit us in July here in Alberta. It was wonderful to have you here for the week. And I have another house guest here who's working with me this month. Also, the show, remember, is streaming live on our YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host, E360 TV, which is my home network, and all of the shows are archived there. I think we have about 165 shows in the can there now. So I must go in and check and see what we're doing and if we're getting any better or not. And of course, our Self Worth the Missing Link Facebook page. Tomorrow, my guest will be the beautiful Dr. Joan Wakeland. She's been here before, and she's coming to us from Menifee, California. And she and I are going to discuss a book that we both collaborated as authors in this collaboration book. So anyway, it'll be fun. Dr. Joan's always a lot of fun. So looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thanks again, Ramin. And I'm so happy to have you back. And looking forward to more. So bye for now, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Yes. Bye-bye.